Hello children, today we shall be discussing about the first lesson in history, that is sources. History is a systematic study of past. So what is history? It is a systematic study of the past. Past means whatever happened earlier. Whatever happened earlier, if we study that systematically, then it is called as history. So how is history written? History is written on the basis of the sources. Without the source, it is not possible to write the history. We say that such and such a ruler ruled over this area. How can we say that? We can say that only if there are sources. If there are no sources, we cannot say anything about that rule, isn't it? So, history is always written on the basis of the sources. Therefore, it is said that there is no source, no history. That means if there is no source, we cannot write the history. There is no history. Historian is like an advocate. What do we mean by advocate? Lawyer. Historian is like a lawyer. Who is a historian? One who writes the history is called as historian. ಯಾರು ಇತಿಹಾಸವನ್ನ ಬರೀತಾರೋ ಅವರು ಇತಿಹಾಸಕಾರರು. Historian. So, historian is like a lawyer. Why? A lawyer presents his argument on the basis of the evidences related to his case. You might have seen the lawyers putting their arguments in the court. How do they argue? They present their argument on the basis of the evidences that they have related to the case. In the same way, historians also, in order to write the history, they will collect the sources. ಆಧಾರಗಳನ್ನ ಸಂಗ್ರಹಿಸ್ತಾರ. They will collect the sources. Then after collecting the source, they will subject them to critical examination. So, ವಿಮರ್ಶಾತ್ಮಕವಾಗಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಪರೀಕ್ಷೆಗೆ ಒಳಪಡಿಸುತ್ತಾರೆ. They will subject them to critical examination. ವಿಮರ್ಶಾತ್ಮಕ ಪರೀಕ್ಷಣ. They will analyze the sources and only then they will write the history. So, like the lawyer, historians also, first they will collect the sources, then subject the sources to critical examination and analysis, and then only they will write the history. Now, let us try to understand what is a source. Human beings had created many facilities to lead their life since ancient times. See, in order to live, we also have developed many facilities. We also have created many facilities, like we have the cooking utensils, we have a bed in the bedroom, we have the televisions, we have fridges. These are all the facilities that we have created in order to lead our lives. In the same way, since ancient times, human beings, they have created many facilities in order to live their life. So, if these things that were used by the human beings in the past, if they have remained, then they are called as sources. Say for example, there may be some pots used by the earlier human beings. There may be many forts constructed by the earlier human beings, or ponds built by the earlier ancient human beings. So, the things that were used by the ancient people, if they have remained, then these things are called as sources. So, they could be the forts. So, as you can see the picture, in India also we can see many forts built by many dynasties. So, on the basis of the forts, we can write the history. Then on the basis of the coins that the kingdoms used, or the inscriptions that they had written. So, these are some of the sources on the basis of which we can write the history. Similarly, the written documents are also the main source of writing the history. Written document means some books that were written in the earlier period. If they are available, then they are also the main source for writing the history. So, the materials needed for writing the history are called as primary sources. So, they could be the written documents or some coins used by the ancient people or inscriptions written by them. So, these materials which are required for writing the history, they are called as primary sources. So, these primary sources, they can be divided into two types. The first one is literary sources. Second one is the archaeological sources. Again, in the literary sources, there are two types, namely written literature and oral literature. So, let us now first discuss about the literary sources. So, as we know that the literary sources are categorized into written literature and oral literature. So, written literature is a main source for writing the history. So, why it is very important? Because it can bring forth the contemporary social life of the times of the writer alive to us. Say for example, we have the Ramayana and Mahabharata. They are also called as Itihasa. So, it is counted in history. So, when we read the Ramayana, we will come to know about the social life of the time of Rama. Isn't it? So, it tells us about the social life of the times of the writer. That period comes alive to us. It becomes alive to us. Now, there are two types in written literature. The first one is called as native literature and the second one is called as foreign literature. So, what is native literature? The literature created by Indians in the native languages is called as native literature. The literature created by Indians in the native languages of India. Which are the native languages of India? Kannada, Marathi, Telugu, Tamil, Gujarati, Oriya. These are all the native languages of India. The literature created by the Indians in these native languages is called as native literature. So, on the basis of the native literature, we can come to know about the contemporary social, economic, political and cultural life of the people of those times. For example, Kautilya, which is another name for Chanakya, he wrote a book called Arthashastra. What is the name of the book written by Kautilya? Arthashastra. So this book tells us, or it gives a information about the administration during the Mauryan period. In the same way, there was a king by name Hala. He wrote a book called Gatha Saptashati. He wrote a book called Gatha Saptashati. Then there was a scholar who wrote a book called Mudra Rakshasa. Vishakadatta's Mudra Rakshasa. Then Kalhana, he was another scholar. He wrote a book called Rajatarangini. This book gives a detailed information about the rulers of Kashmir. So, Kalhana is the name of the scholar. He wrote a book called Rajatarangini. Then there was another great Sanskrit scholar known as Banabhatta. So, he wrote a book called Harshacharita. It tells us about the rule of Harshavardhana of Vardhana dynasty. In the same way, Chand Bardai, he was a Muslim scholar. He wrote a book called Prithviraj Raso. So, it gives the details about a very famous ruler called Prithviraj Chauhan who ruled in Rajputana. In the same way, Pampa, the very famous Kannada scholar, he wrote a book called Vikramarjuna Vijaya. In the same way, in Tamil literature, we come across Sangam literature. So, these are all some of the very famous native literary works which gives us detailed information about the social, economic, political, cultural conditions of the people of ancient India. Then the second kind of literature is foreign literature. So what do we mean by foreign literature? The literature written by foreigners is called as foreign literature. So why the foreigners wrote about India? So during the ancient times, many foreigners, travelers or as ambassadors or for some business purpose or some missionaries visited India for the purpose of propagating their Christianity. So these different foreigners who visited India during the ancient times, they have recorded their observations and their experiences in India. So this is considered as foreign literature. So what are the examples for foreign literature? So there was a Chinese traveler by name Fa Hian. So he wrote a book called Ghokoki. So Fa Hian's Ghokoki is a very important foreign literature. In the same way, there was another Chinese traveler by name Huan Sang. He wrote a book called Siyuki. In the same way, there was a European traveler by name Ptolemy. So he wrote a book called Geography. Ptolemy's Geography. Then there was a Urdu scholar by name Farishta. So he wrote a book called Tarikh-e-Farishta. Then there is also Tuzuk-e-Babri, which is written by Babur. So these are some of the very famous foreign literature on the basis of which we can write the Indian history. Then there is a native literature also available and there is a foreign literature also available. So which one we have to rely upon? Which is more reliable? So both native literature as well as the foreign literature, they are having their own merits and demerits. Both the literature suffer from certain demerits. So what are the demerits? What are the drawbacks of the native literature and the foreign literature? So in the native literature, exaggeration, like the Indian scholars, they may try to exaggerate the things. For example, suppose Pulikeshin II has won the war. The scholars who write about him, they may exaggerate that. ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಹೊಗಳಿ ಬರುವಂತದ್ದು ಆಗಬಹುದು. They may exaggerate the things, or they may be over loyal to the master and they may not give the right information. For example, ಯಾವುದೇ ಒಂದು ಯುದ್ಧವನ್ನ ಆ ರಾಜ ಸೋತಿದ್ದ ಅಂತಂದ್ರ ಆ ರಾಜನ ಆಸ್ಥಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವಂತಹ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರು ತಮ್ಮ ಪುಸ್ತಕದೊಳಗ ಅದನ್ನ ಬರೀದೇ ಇರಬಹುದು. So they may be over loyal to one's master. So these are some of the drawbacks of the native literature. Then as far as foreign travelers are concerned, they have no reason to exaggerate the things. They need not be loyal to Indian rulers. But there is also a drawback in the foreign literature. What is that? They won't be having the proper knowledge of the local things, isn't it? So due to the lack of local knowledge, they may write history according to their own understanding. So these are some of the drawbacks of the foreign literature. Therefore, the historians, they have the challenge of writing the history keeping in mind all these limitations. So whenever they are writing the history, they have to keep in their mind the limitations of the native literature as well as the limitations of the foreign literature. So children, in today's class, we discussed about what do we mean by history, what are the sources for writing the history, what is the classification of writing the history, and in that classification we have discussed in detail about the written literature and also in the written literature, we have discussed in detail about the native literature and the foreign literature. Then there is one more concept left out, which is the oral literature. So, literature is divided into written literature and oral literature. So, what do we mean by oral literature? Oral literature means the folk stories, folk songs, folk legends or the ballads that pass on from one person to another by the word of mouth is called as oral literature. So, since the beginning of human life, human beings are passing on their experiences in the form of stories, songs and ballads orally from generation to generations. They have created ballads about the local heroes like Kumararama or Kittura Rani Chennamma, Sangolli Rayanna or Sindhura Lakshmana. About these great heroes, the folk people, Janapadiyaru, the folk people, they have created many ballads. Ballads means Veeragathigalu. Janapadiyaru ತಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರದೇಶದ ವೀರರ ಕುರಿತು ವೀರಗಾಥೆಗಳನ್ನ ರಚಿಸಿ ಅವನ್ನ ಒಬ್ಬರಿಂದ ಒಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ ಮೌಖಿಕವಾಗಿ ಒಂದು ತಲೆಮಾರಿನಿಂದ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ತಲೆಮಾರಿನವರಿಗೆ ಹಸ್ತಾಂತರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. So they have passed on the ballads that they have created about the local heroes. Then there may be some legends. What are legends? Legends are the mythological stories. For example, every place will be having some legend. For example, Mysuru. So, how Mysuru got that name? It got the name because there was a demon called as Mahishasura who was ruling over Mysuru. Mahishana Uru, Mahishapura. Then it came to be called as Mysuru. So, like this, every village will also be having some mythological story related to that. All these things come under the oral literature. The historians will be studying this oral literature also in order to write the history. So, children, in the next class, we will be discussing about the archaeological sources. Thanks, children.